out of here. Get out of here. What are you doing? You fired. You could. Go on.
You'll find out, and they'll find out, too.
Reporting the United States is pausing all U.S. military aid to Ukraine until President Trump determines the Ukrainians show a commitment of good faith peace negotiations. That's according to a senior Trump administration telling Fox.
F around and find out. I'm ecstatic about this. Donald Trump is not playing any games, y'all. He just kicked Zelenskyy off of the American taxpayer dollars teat. Okay, he said the account is closed, you're cut, we're not playing any more games. He's tired because today, I'm gonna pull up this man's Truth Social here. This is what Zelenskyy said. He says, the end of the war with Russia is very, very far away. Now, Trump was obviously mad about this. This is what he said. This is a worse statement that could have been made by Zelenskyy, and America will not put up with it for much longer. We're in the middle of like peace deals, and the end of the war is far away, very, very far. Like, that is a stupid thing to say. I agree with Trump as a leader. I don't think he should have said something like that, and I can tell you why in a second.
This is not a permanent termination of aid. It is a pause. The orders are going out right now. The official said this in response to Ukrainian President Zelensky's conduct over the last week and his words over the weekend. So it's all stopping, Brian.
Yeah, well, he needs an apology. President Trump says, I need a direct apology. This can be fixed with a phone call. Sorry if things went off the rails. Like the first 45 minutes of our talk. Didn't like the last 10. So let's get this thing back on track. I understand what you mean, and let's do it. And then you put the ball in Russia's court, and let's see how sincere they are. But it's going to take a call from Zelenskyy to Trump directly, and I'm sure he'd take the call. The guy does not hold grudges.
This guy doesn't want there to be peace as long as he has America's backing, and Europe's in the meeting they had with Zelenskyy stated flatly that they cannot do the job without the U.S. Probably not a great statement to have been made in terms of showing strength against Russia. What are they thinking? Now, unfortunately, guys, I'm convinced that because these people are obsessed with stopping Russia and good guy versus bad guy, I don't know what the hell these people's problem is. Probably because they're not going to fight in the war themselves. Shout out to Liz Cheney. But they feel like they can handle World War III. World War III is not a problem for them. As a matter of fact, they already have people convinced that when war times are present, it's okay to suspend elections.
Here is something that the political establishment and propaganda media don't want you to know. Ukraine's President Zelenskyy has just banned yet another political opposition party, one that questioned his legitimacy as president, and used Ukraine's Department of Justice to mandate the seizure of this party's members' assets. Now, this is just the latest of Zelenskyy's actions to do this sort of thing. He began banning major political opposition parties in 2022, when he also started banning TV channels that were associated with his political opponents. And he took over total control of Ukraine's largest television networks, now controlled by their government. Now, Zelenskyy's presidential term ended on May 20th. He canceled elections in the name of martial law, suspending Ukraine's constitution so that he could stay in power. Now, defenders of Zelenskyy will say, hey, Ukraine is in the middle of a war. They can't have elections. Just stop for a moment and think, if we accept that excuse or criteria for suspending the Constitution and canceling elections, then we should presume that leaders in our own country and our own establishment media will also use this same excuse and rationale when they suspend our Constitution and our elections, since we too are at war with Russia and China. If you think this sounds crazy, look at what's already going on. They've already started conditioning us to accept a dictatorship by rationalizing their own use of our Department of Justice to target President Trump and other political enemies in their efforts to stay in power.
At the end of the day, it's all about power for these people, because here's the thing a lot of people don't know. And Donald Trump pointed this out, that the Europeans, including the Germans, are spending more on Russian oil and gas than they are actually funding Ukraine. So we're over here sending our tax dollars to Ukraine just endlessly and mindlessly. Meanwhile, Europe is paying Russia for gas. They're funding Russia's success. Make it make sense.
It's very sad when Germany makes a massive oil and gas deal with Russia, where you're supposed to be guarding against Russia, and Germany goes out and pays billions and billions of dollars a year to Russia. So we're protecting Germany, we're protecting France, we're protecting all of these countries, and then numerous of the countries go out and make a pipeline deal with Russia, where they're paying billions of dollars into the coffers of Russia. So we're supposed to protect you against Russia, but they're paying billions of dollars to Russia, and I think that's very inappropriate. And the former chancellor of Germany is the head of the pipeline company that's supplying the gas. Ultimately, Germany will have almost 70% of their country controlled by Russia with natural gas. So you tell me, is that appropriate? I mean, I've been complaining about this from the time I got in. It should have never been allowed to have happened. But Germany is totally controlled by Russia.
What happened to all of these sanctions and stuff that we're supposed to have on Russia? What happened to not buying from Russia? Germany in particular is a very guilty culprit. Even fake Tapper on CNN Fake News called this out.
Yeah, I actually saw a study from a European group that showed that Europeans were actually buying more Russian oil and gas than they were helping Ukraine in terms of the aid. So in some ways, the Europeans are funding both sides in this war.
Now, guys, what's really happening here is, unfortunately, you have Europe and the European Union, a bunch of folks over in the UK, trying to literally say that they're going to put boots on the ground. Now, that can be easily interpreted as they're going to put their own boots on the ground. What that means is that if anybody from any one of those nations gets attacked, then that means that United States, because we're a member of NATO, has to jump in and save them. And boom, World War III has begun. And everybody's an enemy now.
We will keep the military aid flowing and keep increasing the economic pressure on Russia. The UK is prepared to back this with boots on the ground and planes in the air. Together with others, Europe must do the heavy lifting. And to succeed, this effort must have strong US backing.
And Russia has allies too. Don't think it's Russia by themselves. They got allies too, because they're pretty allied with China right now. So this is not a good situation, guys. These people are literally on the cusp of World War III, and Zelensky doesn't care.
The U.S. will have to send their sons and daughters exactly the same way as we are sending their sons and daughters to war, and they will have to fight, because it's NATO that we're talking about, and they will be dying.
Because he feels defeated already anyway, so he doesn't really care. He just wants to keep things going because he doesn't want to feel like a loser. So if World War III starts and, you know, other countries suffer too, he doesn't care about that. He only cares about Ukraine, and I'm not even sure I can even say that, because Ukraine is definitely getting obliterated if World War III actually happens. But Zelensky is desperate here to join NATO, which is never going to happen. Putin already said it's never going to happen. The only way that this could happen is if we literally beat Putin into submission, which, again, I don't see happening. He got nukes over there, guys. Don't feel like he's small or something. Don't feel like he ain't like strong or he ain't swole. Putin has nukes. He has every type of weapon that we got. As far as I know, like the main stuff that everybody knows about, Putin also has. So it's not something where he's just going to go down easily, where we can afford to get in like some all-out war with him. I can assure you that this guy has not begun to fight yet.
We are now forcing Europe to step up to the plate too. And I will tell you this as well. This is a country, our country, we're running a $2 trillion annual deficit. We are $36 trillion in debt. We cannot afford to cut blank checks to the entire world in perpetuity. We can't do it. And what country in the world taxes their citizens and then turns around and sends the United States billions of dollars when they're running a $2 trillion annual deficit? We can't afford this anymore.
I think the reason why Zelensky made this dumb statement is because he wants to weasel his way into NATO somehow, and he knows that that may take some time. It's never going to happen. The United States basically is the king of the world, effectively, and the United States controls NATO, at least for now. And as long as the United States is in NATO, Ukraine's not going to be welcome because we don't want to play these stupid games. We don't want to play with these dumb, woke behind European countries out here further perpetuating continuation of the war because they know the United States was paying for Ukraine, which I feel like this is a masterclass thing. One of the reasons why we voted for Trump, or one of the reasons certainly I voted for him, is because he promised to stop the war and end the funding. Hey, if the war don't stop, end the funding, let them fend for themselves, let Europe go broke, United States could be prosperous, and then if we do have to somehow fight later, at least we got plenty of money to manufacture weapons and fight rather than being broke as hell trying to do it. I actually love the fact that this happened, but let me know what you guys think. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. I appreciate you watching the Black Anomaly Rising channel. I'm out.
If you stay down here and you never around, you'll never find out.